Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
Unless you're wanting to shut this thing down, the other thing I mentioned was the fact that education keeps going up,
Mm-hmm.
and and with education with education going up, um, with education going up, um, and with jobs that would be for manufacturing going over to more automated stuff. Um, people in this country, a lot of people in this country do not have means to afford the education that is necessary to land them the jobs so that they can uh, lift themselves out of poverty without having a massive uh, student loan that they're going to have to spend the rest of their lives paying off. And my question was basically my question was basically how would you propose that we how would you propose that we deal with this situation?
I actually have what I think is a pretty good, like, broad strokes proposal for this. Hold on a second. With the education situation, generally speaking, a bachelor's or a master's degree pays for itself within so many years. Which means that it's usually most of the time, mass majority of the time, a good investment. The problem is, like with any good investment, if you don't have the means to start that investment, then you're gonna just be left out of it. So basically, it's too expensive for people to get into. The system that we have now requires people to take out student loans, which have a interest rate on them, and pay it off over time. Even with this crappy system, the investment still usually is worth it, but it ties people down to a student loan payment that's based off of the loan amount, which means that people who are going to into fields like the arts, or in my case, human services, where I don't expect to be making more than $40,000 a year, that student loan is going to be more burdensome on people like that than it is going to be on people like that go into like engineering, which is a field that I think is becoming diluted, or like a or doctors or whatever. So my solution is 0% interest student loans from the government, that only get paid back after you get a job, um after you graduate. So anyone can get these student loans. It gets when you graduate, the government looks at how much you make and determine how much monthly you pay into paying back that student loan. So if I'm only making 40,000, I may only have like $100 a month payment. Whereas if you're making $100,000, you might have a $500 a month payment. That way, if the degree that you get becomes not worth it, that loan isn't really on your back as much as it would be otherwise.
Right. Uh, so, for example, my state, my state has implemented. I forget what the program's called, but basically, let's say you graduated high school. Uh, let's say you graduated high school and you were just burned out by the constant books and the constant studying and stuff, and so you decided to take a break or whatever, and and you decide that you want to go back. You decide that you want to go back to school and get some type of degree. They have implemented now. Keep in mind, this is actually a red state, but implemented um, they have implemented a program. I believe it's called the Adult Reentry Program or something like that. They've implemented this program, and I don't know all the specifics of it. I don't know if there's like I don't know if it's like you have to be from a specific class and on up or anything like that. But your basic tuition, you do not have to pay for your basic tuition. Is that that something that you would, regardless of whichever party were to implement it, is that something that you would be that you could throw your support behind to be implemented on a national level?
Definitely. The new the reason my system is more complicated is because it takes into consideration the fact that that leaving when you get out of college, the degree usually pays for itself. So my system makes it to where if you get more benefits from your degree than somebody else, you're going to be paying more into that degree. Um, but like if you just want to do a blanket, like your tuition's paid for, I'm also okay with that because it's better than this we have now. It's going to be more expensive on the government, which I don't really care about as much as conservatives would. Um, but like yeah, no, for sure. I would throw as a matter of fact, I hope that Joe Biden cancels the student loans like he promised to do.
And something else, that you know that this is something that this is one of the more I guess you would call left leaning tendencies that I have. Um, I remember when I was a kid, I remember my family. I remember we went to Scotland, which of course is in the UK. But I saw the massive mass transit system that they had over there, and I was always fascinated by it. I was always fascinated by the concept of you could live in a small village, could live in a small village, and you could go to a high speed rail train station, and you could catch a ride to the city, leave the train station, and catch a taxi or a bus and go wherever you need to go, and you didn't even need a car. So, I've always, personally, in my opinion, I've always felt. Granted, I know it would be expensive, um, but I've always felt, personally, in my opinion, that if we had a high speed rail network, uh, if we had a high speed rail network that basically stretched across the country, uh, and if we had a high speed rail network that stretched across the country, and we had like national express lines. So like on the East Coast, we would have an express track that would go from Miami, and then it would make a stop in Jacksonville, and then it might go up to Atlanta, and then its next stop would be in Charlotte. Next stop would be DC. Next stop would be Philadelphia, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Uh, and then if we had like a, and then if we had and then the second line, that would be a national line as well, but that would be more of a that would be more of a but that would be like whereas one would be the express, the other one would be the branch. So if you have a branch going along the East Coast, that branch would stop at Orlando, and then it might stop in then it might stop in then it might stop in Savannah, then it might stop in and then it might stop in Charleston, South Carolina, and so on, what have you. And then you would have what would be then you would have what would basically be the local lines. So going for example, so if you have a branch stopping in Orlando, there's like all these other communities surround Orlando, and that local line would be connecting those other that local line uh, would be connecting those smaller communities to the branch in Orlando, and the branch would then connect them to the express.
Yeah.
It would it would it would be timely, and it would be expensive, but it would be a great opportunity. It would be just as ambitious as when the country implemented the interstate highway system, and I believe it would create a lot of I believe it would create a lot of opportunities for job growth. I also believe that on the issue of global warming, I know that a lot of companies are going to electric now, but I believe that I believe that the less people are using their cars, for one, they're not putting as much carbon emission into the atmosphere. But two, they're not having to. But two, their cars are not wearing down and tearing down as much, which means that's even more money in their pocket because the more you use something, the more wear and tear is going to be put on it. Um, but I also believe that. Also believe that. I also believe that. Would have. You would need people in. You would need people. Uh, you would need people. You would need people to build it. You need people to design it. People to operate it. And I was just wondering what your take on that was.
I wholeheartedly support in massive infrastructure investments like that. It not only creates jobs for the actual project itself, it would be a boon to the economies that get to utilize it. Europe is like crushing us in those types of infrastructure, and it is embarrassing as an American to be crushed by Europe in such in a way that we used to be like leaders on. I don't know where we started going wrong. My guess is Reagan, but I really don't know. Um, I don't know why we haven't still gotten on this. Every president I believe that's been elected so far has promised infrastructure investment, maybe not to that scale, but to a scale that just hasn't happened yet. And I don't know. It seems like our budget is just tied in elsewhere, and they just can't really get their shit together to be able to pass the bill that would allow something like that to happen. But I wholeheartedly support something like that. If I could get on a train, a high speed rail, and where I live, and go all the way across the country, do you know how happy that would make me? And I technically can, I guess, but it's not like what you.
And then I mean, and then I mean, if for example, if uh, for example, over in Japan, I've never been to Japan, but over in Japan, they have this high speed rail. It's electromagnetic, and basically they use what they do is they use magnets to propel it down the track, and so it's almost like it levitates. But to make sure it doesn't fall off, they designed the bottom of the train in such a way that it wraps around the track, but there's no friction or anything, and which also means that it's practically zero free carbon emission. So something like this, what it would do is it would reduce the demand. It would reduce the demand it would reduce the demand for oil. Now, my understanding is one of the
Hmm.
basics of economics revolves around supply and demand. If the demand is low, if the demand is low but the supply is high, then the price for whatever that thing is going to be relatively cheap. But if the demand is high and the supply is low, the price for that item is going to be more expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would drop the price of oil. That wouldn't be good for a lot of economies around the world. But I don't know. Yeah, I support the initiative wholeheartedly. Find me a candidate to vote for that would support that. Depending on what his other policies are, I will vote for them. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about? I was getting ready to try to end stream.
Honestly, I think I've talked my head off.
All right. Fantastic. I really appreciate you and everyone else that came on tonight. We had a fantastic conversation. The VODs will be up on YouTube and Twitch, and I will probably edit some highlights and put them up on YouTube. If anyone that's just now tuning in wants to see those. Um Yeah, no, I really, really appreciate you guys coming on and being so respectful. I hope that you found that I was respectable, and y'all are always welcome back in. But whenever, just feel free to stick around the Discord. Hit me up when you want to chat.
Yeah, yeah, this is honestly the first time I've ever had. It's not the first time I've had a chat with someone that disagrees with me, but it's like the first time I've had a chat with someone that has some different views than me that doesn't, go to ridiculous attacks. Because like I said when I first joined in, people hiding behind a social screen and hiding behind a screen, saying whatever they want, and it just causes the rest of us to dig deeper into our mindset, and that's put us on a. And November 6th is, if not, if people didn't realize it before, no, if people didn't realize it before, January 6th has really put shown that we are on a dark path, and we need to have these type of things. We need to have these type of discussions, and to where we can to where we can understand why different people believe what they believe, and to have a and if even if no one's mind changes, just to be able to agree to disagree and respect the opinion of the other person.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree. Um, with these conversations, I like to find out if first of all we have the same values, which most people do, and then find out which descriptive claims or facts, like which facts we have that are different, and find out where the truth lies in there. But yeah, have a good night. I'm gonna go ahead and sign off.
All right. Yeah. All right. Thanks for that. Thanks again for putting this all together.
I do. By the way, I do this. I try to do this like kind of once a week. I'll post in all the same forums again when I